Welcome back to the long road and to the Camino de Santiago. Last night, we crossed the Pyrenees, climbing from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port over the mountain pass and down to the pilgrim hospital at Roncesvalles. Tonight we continue. Make yourself comfortable, close your eyes, and let your body settle. There's no rush. We walk from Roncesvalles into the forested hills of Navarra, through beech woodland turning gold with autumn, past quiet Basque villages and medieval bridges, and down to the river town of Zubiri on the banks of the Arga. 22 kilometers of gentle descent through some of the oldest forest in Europe. If you enjoy these walks, like and subscribe so you don't miss the next stage. Now, let the morning find you in Roncesvalles. The mist is still low between the old stone buildings, and it is time to walk. The morning is cold in Roncesvalles. A thin mist lies between the gray stone buildings of the monastery complex, not yet touched by the sun. The air smells of wet stone and fallen leaves. You step outside and the chill settles on your face and hands like a gentle reminder that autumn has arrived in these mountains. The collegiate church stands behind you, its Gothic arches pale against the gray sky. It has stood here since the 13th century, built for the pilgrims who survived the crossing of the Pyrenees. You passed through those mountains yesterday. Today, the path leads downhill through forest and village to the valley of the Arga River, 22 kilometers to Zubiri. You follow the road out of the monastery grounds. The tarmac is dark with overnight rain. A few other walkers move ahead of you, their figures softened by the mist, their footsteps quiet. No one speaks. The morning feels too still for conversation. The path leaves the road and enters the trees almost immediately. Beech trees, tall and straight, their trunks smooth and silver gray. The canopy above is turning green, giving way to copper and gold, the first colors of early autumn. A few leaves drift down slowly, spinning as they fall. The ground beneath your boots is soft. Layers of fallen beech leaves, damp and dark, cushion each step. Here and there, the triangular husks of beech nuts crack under your weight. The sound is small and satisfying, like the popping of tiny seed pods. The air under the canopy is cool and damp, with a deep earthy scent decomposing leaves and wet soil, and something faintly sweet, like overripe fruit. This is the smell of the forest floor in autumn, the slow work of decay that feeds the roots below. A shaft of pale light falls through a gap in the canopy and catches the mist. For a moment, the air itself seems to glow. Then the gap closes as a light breeze shifts the branches, and the forest returns to its soft, even dimness. These beech woods are part of the Great Aradi Forest, which stretches across the western Pyrenees into France. It is the largest beech and fir forest in Europe after the Black Forest. Once it was even larger. Medieval charcoal burners worked these slopes for centuries, feeding iron forges and lime kilns, slowly shrinking the forest's edges. What remains is still vast and quiet. You pass a simple iron cross standing in a small clearing among the trees. It is not tall, perhaps 2 meters, and its surface is dark with rust and age. Pilgrims have placed small stones at its base. The cross says nothing. It simply marks the path, as it has for a long time. The path descends gently, winding between the trunks. The gradient is easy after yesterday's climb. Your legs remember the effort of the Pyrenees, and this soft downhill feels like a kindness. The forest holds you in its quiet, and you walk without hurry. A red squirrel darts across the path ahead, a flash of russet against the brown leaves. It pauses on the far side, clinging to the base of an oak, its tail curved over its back. It watches you with dark, bright eyes. Then it spirals up the trunk and vanishes into the canopy. The trees begin to thin. Light increases. You can see open sky ahead and the shapes of buildings. The path meets a paved road, and you follow it gently downhill toward the first village of the day, Burguete, 3 kilometers from Roncesvalles. Burguete is a single street. The Basques call it Aritz. It runs straight through the village, lined on both sides with whitewashed houses. The shutters are painted red-brown, the color of old iron, and the roofs are steep-pitched against the heavy Pyrenean snows of winter. The street is quiet at this hour. A cat sits on a windowsill, perfectly still. Geraniums in wooden boxes still hold their late-season red, though the leaves are beginning to yellow. The whitewash on the nearest house glows faintly in the soft morning light. This village was founded in 1269 by King Theobald II of Navarra, laid out as a bastide, a planned town along a single road, designed to serve the pilgrim trade. 7.5 centuries later, the plan remains unchanged. You walk the same street the first pilgrims walked. On the right side of the street, a modest hostel bears a plaque. Ernest Hemingway stayed here in July 1924 and again in 1925, fishing for trout in the Arga River with his friends. The river runs just beyond the village, cold and clear, threading through the valley below. He wrote about this place in The Sun Also Rises. Jake Barnes and Bill Gorton come here to fish and drink wine and sleep late. The village in the novel is barely disguised. The single street, the cold mornings, the trout streams. Hemingway loved the simplicity of it, the walking and the water and the quiet. You do not need to fish. You do not need to do anything but walk. The morning light falls evenly on the whitewashed walls, and the village feels unhurried, as if time moves more slowly along this single street. A fountain stands at the edge of a small square. The water runs steadily from a stone spout, filling a rectangular trough and overflowing into a drain below. The sound is constant and even. You pause and let it fill the quiet. The road through Burguete is the Calle Única, the only street. There is something restful about a village that has just one street. No choices to make, no turns to consider. You simply walk forward and the village passes gently around you. At the far end of Burguete, the houses thin and the road opens to fields. The grass on either side is wet with dew, darkened to a deep green. A faint haze hangs over the meadows. The mountains behind you are lost in cloud. The village names here come in pairs. Burguete is the Spanish name, Aritz the Basque. The Basque names are older, much older, from a language that was spoken in these mountains before the Romans came, before the Celts, before anyone thought to write down what things were called. The road continues south, flat and straight. The paving is old but smooth underfoot. To the left, a low stone wall separates the road from a field where a handful of sheep graze, their wool heavy with morning damp. A European robin lands on the wall ahead of you. It tilts its head, watching. The red-orange patch on its breast is vivid against the gray stone. It hops once, twice, then lifts away with a flutter of small wings. Robins in Navarra are bolder than you might expect. They follow walkers drawn by the insects disturbed in the grass. The road drops slightly and crosses a small stream on a concrete bridge. The water below is clear and shallow, moving quickly over a bed of brown and gray stones. You can hear it, but only just, a light, continuous murmur beneath the sound of your own footsteps. Espinal appears ahead. The Basques call it Arizberri, New Aritz. It is strung along the road in the same way as Burguete, stone houses with wide eaves set close together. The village is quiet. A dog sleeps in a doorway. 6 kilometers now. The houses here are built of pale gray stone, their walls thick against the mountain cold. The eaves extend further than you might expect, sheltering the walls from the rain that falls heavily in this part of Navarra. Dark wooden beams show beneath the overhangs. You pass a stone trough set into the wall of a house, carved from a single block. Water trickles into it from an iron pipe. These village fountains have served walkers and animals for centuries. The stone is smooth where countless hands have rested on its rim. The air is warming now. The mist has lifted, and the sky above the rooftops is a soft, pale blue. You can feel the faintest heat on the back of your neck where the sun touches skin. Beyond Espinal, the road gives way to a track. The surface changes from smooth tarmac to packed earth and gravel, and you feel the difference immediately. Softer, more yielding, gentler on the joints. The track leads into the trees. The beech forest closes around you again. The canopy is dense here, filtering the sunlight into a golden green haze. The trunks are tall and widely spaced, like the columns of a cathedral with a living roof. The silence deepens. The track climbs gently. After the flat road between the villages, you feel the gradient in your calves, but it is mild, a slow, steady rise through the trees. The path is wide enough for a cart, worn into the hillside by centuries of feet and wheels. Sessile oaks appear among the beeches. Their trunks are darker, rougher, draped in thick green moss. The moss is soft to the touch, damp with the moisture that hangs in the air under the canopy. Where the oaks grow, the light shifts. Their leaves are smaller, letting more sky through in scattered patches. A hazel tree grows at the path's edge, its branches heavy with clusters of brown nuts still in their ragged green husks. Some have fallen to the ground and split open. The squirrels have been here. You can see the neat tooth marks on the discarded shells. The earth beside the track has been disturbed. A patch of ground perhaps 2 meters across has been turned over, the soil dark and wet, the leaf litter scattered. Wild boar have been rooting here, searching for mushroom mycelia and grubs beneath the surface. You do not see them. They are nocturnal and shy, but their marks are everywhere in this forest. A great spotted woodpecker drums somewhere above and to the left. The sound is rapid and hollow. A short burst, a pause, another burst. You stop and look up, scanning the trunks. There. A flash of black and white and red, high on a dead branch. It drums again, and the sound carries through the still air. You walk on. The track curves left around a mossy boulder, and the gradient eases. A stream runs alongside the path, hidden in the ferns, audible but not visible. Its voice is thin and steady, a thread of sound woven into the silence. The ferns along the stream are beginning to brown at their edges, the tips curling inward. In summer, they would be vivid green, unfurled and tall. Now they are fading, softening, leaning toward the ground. The cycle of the year turning slowly visible at the margins. Ivy climbs the trunk of an old beech, its dark green leaves overlapping like scales. It has reached the lower branches and spreads outward along them. The ivy is evergreen. It will remain when the beech drops its leaves, a column of green against the bare winter canopy. The path is muddy now. This stretch is notorious among pilgrims. The clay soil of Navarra holds water, and the forest shade keeps it from drying. Your boots press into the soft surface, and there is a faint sucking sound as you lift each foot. You place your steps carefully, finding the firmer ground at the edges of the path. The mud is not unpleasant. It slows you, and that is all right. There is no rush. The clay is red-brown, the color of iron oxide, the same iron that colors the soil across this part of Navarra, weathered out of the Cretaceous limestone over millions of years. The limestone beneath this forest floor was laid down between 100 million and 65 million years ago, when this land was the bed of a shallow sea. The creatures that lived in that sea, shells and corals and tiny organisms, sank and compressed and became stone. You walk on the floor of an ancient ocean, and the trees grow from its sediment. The path climbs more steeply now. Roots cross the track like veins, slick with moisture, and you step over them one by one. The trees press close on both sides. The air is still, the sound of the hidden stream fading behind you. A cluster of chanterelle mushrooms grows at the base of an oak. They are golden orange, their caps wavy and irregular, their undersides lined with fine ridges instead of gills. They smell faintly of apricots and damp earth. You leave them where they are. They belong to the forest. Further on, a large boletus pushes up through the leaf litter, its cap brown and smooth, as wide as a saucer. The stem is thick and pale. Autumn is the season for mushrooms in the Arati forest. The damp air and the rotting leaves create the conditions they need. They appear and disappear within days, quiet visitors. The gradient steepens for a final push. Your breathing deepens. You feel the climb in your thighs, a slow burn that is not unpleasant. The trees thin slightly, and more light falls through. You are nearing the top of something. The Alto de Misquiris, 955 meters. A modest summit, a clearing in the trees where the path levels out and a wooden signpost marks the high point. The effort of the climb dissolves as the ground flattens beneath your feet. From the clearing, you can see the hills rolling southward, a soft undulation of forest and meadow. The colors are muted green and brown, and the pale gold of turning beeches, all softened by a thin haze. There are no dramatic peaks here, just the gentle folding of the Navarran hills, one behind another, dissolving into distance. You stand still for a moment. The breeze is slight but cool, drying the sweat on your temples. A jay calls from the trees below, a harsh, scratchy sound, the loudest thing you have heard in an hour. Then silence again. 11 kilometers walked. 11 more to Zubiri. You are exactly halfway, standing at the highest point of today's walk. From here, the general direction is down, a long, slow descent from the Pyrenean foothills to the valley of the Arga River. You are in no hurry to begin it. The path leaves the clearing and re-enters the forest. The descent begins, gentle at first, the track curving between old beeches whose roots grip the slope like fingers. The light in the forest is different now. The sun has risen higher, and where it finds gaps in the canopy, it falls in long, golden shafts that catch the dust and pollen suspended in the still air. The effect is quiet and beautiful, like light through stained glass. The charcoal burners who once worked these hills would build their kilns in clearings, stacking wood into careful mounds and covering them with earth and turf. The burn could take days, tended through the night, the air thick with blue smoke. The charcoal fed the forges of Navarra. The clearings they made have long since grown over, the forest patient in reclaiming what was taken. You notice a flat, circular area beside the path where the trees seem younger, their trunks thinner. This may have been one of those charcoal platforms. The forest does not forget, but it does forgive slowly over generations of growth. The track narrows. Exposed roots cross the path more frequently, and you step over them with a rhythm that becomes almost automatic. Step, lift, step, lift. Your body knows what to do, your mind can rest. A fallen beech lies across the slope below the path, its trunk mossy and soft, slowly returning to the soil. Bracket fungi grow from its bark in overlapping shelves, pale gray on top and brown beneath. They are patient decomposers, working over years and decades to unmake the tree. The air smells of damp wood and leaf mold. It is a deep, rich smell. The smell of a forest that is alive from its canopy to its roots and all the hidden layers of soil between. Another jay. This one crosses the path in a flash of blue and pink, its wing bars vivid. Jays are the sentinels of the forest. Their alarm calls carry far. If you hear a jay screaming, something is moving through the trees, a fox, a boar, a walker. They have announced your presence to every creature within earshot. The path levels briefly, then descends again. The mud returns, darker here, almost black in the deeper ruts. Other walkers have left their boot prints in it, a palimpsest of treads and sizes, slowly filling with water. You step around the worst of it, finding footholds on stones and tree roots at the path's edge. The mud does not trouble you. It is part of this walk, part of this forest, part of the Navarran autumn. It means rain has fallen recently and the forest is drinking. A small stream crosses the path, barely a hand's width, trickling over stones. It has carved a shallow groove in the clay. You step across it easily. The water is perfectly clear, and where the light catches it, it glints like glass. The forest is so quiet that you can hear your own breathing, steady and slow. You can hear the creak of your pack straps as you move. You can hear the faint rustle of a beech leaf detaching and falling, spiraling down through the still air to join the millions already on the ground. The beech leaves on the ground are copper and brown and pale gold. Some have dried to a papery lightness and crackle when you step on them. Others are still damp and soft, pressed flat against the earth. The layers go down and down, years of leaves, slowly becoming soil. You walk. The rhythm of your steps is even and unhurried. Left, right, left, right. The pack sits settled on your back, its weight familiar now, part of you. The forest moves past in a slow, steady scroll of trunks and leaves and dappled light. The descent steepens. The path drops through a narrow ravine where the trees lean inward from both sides, their branches meeting overhead. A stream runs at the bottom louder now, and the air is cooler. You can feel the moisture on your skin. The trees open, fields appear, and a valley narrow and green. Stone walls divide the pastures. A few houses cluster together where the valley floor is flat. Viscaret. The Basques call it Viscareta. 14 kilometers from Roncesvalles. The sudden brightness is startling after the long hours in the forest. You blink. The sky is wide and pale above the valley, and the light falls on the stone houses and the green fields with a clarity that the forest canopy did not allow. Viscaret is a hamlet, no more. A handful of stone houses with steep roofs, a small church, a barn or two. The houses are old, their walls thick, their doorways low. They have the settled look of buildings that have been here for a very long time. A medieval stone bridge crosses the Arrow stream at the edge of the village. The bridge is small, perhaps 5 meters long, with a single arch of pale stone worn smooth by centuries of rain and feet. The stream below is shallow and clear, moving over a bed of rounded stones. You stop on the bridge and lean on the parapet. The stone is warm where the sun has reached it. Below, the water runs in quiet braids around the larger stones, forming small pools where dead leaves gather and spin slowly. The sound of the stream is soft and continuous, like breathing. In the 12th century, a French monk named Aymeric Picard wrote a guide for pilgrims traveling to Santiago de Compostela. It became part of the Codex Calixtinus. Picard described this valley and named Viscaret as the end of the third stage of the journey through Navarra. You are standing where he stood, or close enough, 900 years apart on the same bridge. Picard was not a generous writer. He complained about the food and the water and the people of Navarra, but he walked the route, and he recorded what he saw. and because of that, the path has a continuous written history stretching back nearly a millennium. You leave the bridge and walk through the last few houses of Burguete. A window box holds late-season marigolds, their orange dulled but not yet faded. A wooden gate stands open to a garden where runner beans climb tall poles, their leaves beginning to wilt. The Arrow stream continues alongside the path for a while, hidden in vegetation, its voice a steady murmur. You follow a dirt track between hedgerows, the valley narrow on both sides, the hills rising steeply into forest. The limestone here is pale gray where it surfaces in road cuts and stream banks. You can see the layering, thin beds of marl alternating with harder limestone, each layer recording a different moment in the life of that ancient Cretaceous sea. 65 million years of quiet accumulation, tilted and exposed by the slow collision of continents. The track climbs briefly out of the valley. The effort is short and moderate. At the top, you look back and see the rooftops of Burguete below, half hidden by trees. Wood smoke rises from a chimney, thin and straight in the still air. The path enters the forest again. It is different here, mixed woodland, oak and beech and occasional stands of hazel. The undergrowth is thicker, with brambles and bracken crowding the edges of the track. Blackberries hang in dark, shriveled clusters past their season. A salamander lies motionless on the damp path. It is small, no longer than your hand, its skin glossy black with irregular yellow spots. It looks like a creature from a fairy tale. You step around it carefully. Salamanders appear after rain in these forests, emerging from the leaf litter to cross the trails. The path undulates gently, rising and falling over low ridges between the valleys. Each rise is small, a few minutes of effort, no more, and each descent brings a new view of the rolling Navarran hills, the same but subtly different, like variations on a theme. The soil here is drier. The mud has thinned to a red-brown dust that coats the toes of your boots. Stones poke through the surface of the track, pale gray limestone smoothed by footsteps. The walking is easier, and you settle into a comfortable rhythm. A clearing opens to the right, a small meadow ringed by oaks. The grass is long and beginning to seed, the heads bowing under their own weight. A single cow stands in the center, motionless, watching you pass with calm, dark eyes. The track descends toward another cluster of rooftops. A church tower rises above the trees, square and plain. This is Linzoan, 18 kilometers from Roncesvalles, 4 more to Zubiri. Linzoan is barely a village. A handful of stone farmhouses arranged on a hillside, their walls golden brown in the afternoon light. A stone watering trough. A barn with a wide wooden door, closed. The place feels as if it has been sleeping for a long time and sees no reason to wake. The farmhouses are built of local stone, the same Cretaceous limestone that forms the hills around you, cut into rough blocks and mortared with lime. The walls are thick, designed to hold warmth in winter and coolness in summer. They have the solidity of things built to last. You pass through without stopping. The path beyond the village drops into another fold of the hills, and the forest returns thinner now, the trees sparser, more light reaching the ground. You can feel the landscape changing. The hills are lower, the valleys are wider. You are leaving the high country. The afternoon light is warm and golden. It falls at a low angle through the trees, casting long shadows across the path. The air is still warm but carries a faint edge of coolness, a promise of the evening to come. An oak tree stands alone in a field, its canopy broad and spreading, its trunk gnarled and thick. It may be 300 years old or more. It was a sapling when Hemingway's great-great-grandparents were born. It does not know or care about any of this. It simply grows. The path follows a ridge for a while, with views on both sides. To the east, the forested hills you have walked through, fold upon fold, darkening with distance. To the west, the land drops away toward a broader valley. Somewhere down there, the Arga River is carving its way through limestone. You cannot see the river yet, but you can sense the valley, a deepening of the space ahead, a widening of the sky. The air feels different here, slightly warmer, carrying a faint vegetal scent from the valley floor below. The Arga is one of the great rivers of Navarra. It rises in the mountains to the north and flows south through a series of narrow valleys before reaching the plain at Pamplona. Over millennia, it has cut a deep channel through the Cretaceous limestone, patient and persistent, carving the rock grain by grain. The descent begins in earnest. The path drops steeply, switching back and forth down the hillside. Loose stones scatter underfoot, and you slow your pace, placing each step deliberately. The trees thin further, and the valley opens below. The rocks on the path are gray and angular, broken limestone exposed by the passage of feet and rain. Some are sharp-edged, freshly broken. Others have been worn smooth, their surfaces polished by thousands of boots over hundreds of years. You are descending from 900 meters toward 500. The difference is felt in the air. It grows warmer, heavier, carrying more scent. The smell of the river valley rises to meet you, water and damp stone, and the green tang of riverbank vegetation. A red squirrel watches you from a branch overhead, its tail curled over its back in a question mark. It holds something in its front paws, a beech nut, perhaps, or an acorn. It does not flee. It simply waits for you to pass, patient and still. The path levels briefly, crossing a flat terrace on the hillside. Wild grasses grow here, their seed heads catching the afternoon light. A butterfly, small, brown, unremarkable, rises from the grass and flutters ahead of you for a few paces before veering away into the warmth. Then the descent resumes. The path narrows and drops through a stand of young oaks, their trunks no thicker than your arm. They grow close together, competing for light, their branches interlocking overhead. The ground beneath them is rocky and uneven. You can hear the river now. It is faint at first, a low, continuous murmur beneath the sound of your footsteps and the rustle of leaves. But with each switchback, each drop in elevation, the sound grows. The Arga is below and you are coming down to meet it. The path is rough here, more rock than earth. Your knees absorb each downward step, a gentle jolt that becomes part of the walking rhythm. You lean back slightly against the slope, letting gravity do the work while your legs guide and brake. The valley walls steepen on both sides. The limestone cliffs show through the trees, gray-white faces of rock, streaked with dark lines where water runs in winter. The cliffs are not tall, but they are imposing in this narrow valley, pressing the river and the path into a tight corridor. The sound of the Arga is strong now. You can hear individual notes within it, the deep rumble of water over large stones, the higher splash of a small cascade, the steady hiss of current against the bank. The river is close. And then you see it. Through the last of the trees, a flash of green-gray water moving swiftly over stones. The Arga. It is wider than you expected, perhaps 15 meters across, and it moves with a steady, purposeful current, the surface rippled and alive. The path follows the riverbank. The vegetation is lush here, willows trailing their branches in the current, alders with dark trunks, tall grasses bending toward the water. The air is cool and damp, rich with the mineral smell of river water and wet stone. The river's voice fills the valley. It is not loud, but it is constant and encompassing, a white noise that absorbs all other sounds. Your footsteps, your breathing, the rustle of your pack, all are folded into the river's steady murmur. The water is clear where it is shallow, the stones on the bed visible in shades of brown and gray and pale green. Where it deepens, the color shifts to a dark jade, opaque and smooth. Fallen leaves ride the current, copper beech leaves, oak leaves, small and brown, spinning slowly as the water carries them south. You are approaching Zubiri. The name means village of the bridge in Basque. Zubi, bridge, Iri, village. The language is precise and old, naming places by what matters most about them. In Zubiri, what matters most is the bridge. The first buildings of the town appear on the far bank, a row of houses facing the river, their walls pale stucco, their balconies iron-railed. The town is small but feels substantial after the hamlets and forest of the day's walk. There are shops here and a pharmacy, and lights beginning to glow in the window. But first, the bridge, the Puente de la Rabia. It spans the Arga in two arches of pale stone, rising gently to a central pillar and descending to the far bank. It is medieval, its stones worn and rounded by centuries of weather and use. The Bridge of Rabies. The name is strange and specific. For centuries, shepherds brought their sick animals here, sheep and goats and cattle, suspected of rabies, and led them 3 times around the central pillar of the bridge. It was believed that this ritual could cure the disease. The practice continued into the 20th century. You walk across the bridge slowly. The stones beneath your feet are large and uneven, smoothed by the passage of animals and people and centuries of rain. The parapet is low. To your left, the Arga flows beneath the arches, the water darkening as it passes through the shadow of the bridge, then brightening again on the far side. You pause at the central pillar. It is broad and solid, its base submerged in the current, its surface smooth where the water has polished it for hundreds of years. You rest your hand on the stone. It is cool and faintly damp. Whatever power the shepherds believed it held, the stone itself is quiet and still. On the far side of the bridge, the path climbs a short flight of stone steps and enters the town. The street is narrow and paved, lined with houses that press close on both sides. The sounds change. The river fades behind you, replaced by the quiet hum of a small town in late afternoon. 22 kilometers, 525 meters above sea level. You have descended nearly 400 meters from Roncesvalles, through forest and village and mud and stone, and now you are here. Zubiri is a working town. It is not picturesque in the way of the mountain villages. The houses are plain, the streets functional. On the edge of town, a large factory building stands empty and quiet, a magnesium oxide plant that operated from the 1940s until the early 2000s, when it closed. The building remains, weathering slowly. But the river redeems the town. The Arga runs through Zubiri like a thread of wildness, its voice audible from every street. Even indoors, you can hear it, a low, constant presence, the sound of water moving over stone. You find a place to stay. The albergue is simple, bunk beds, a shared kitchen, a shower. The water is hot. You stand under it for a long time, feeling the heat loosen the muscles in your shoulders and calves, washing away the red-brown mud of Navarra. Clean and dry, you sit at a table near a window. The light outside is golden, the sun low over the western hills. A glass of wine, red and local, catches the last of the light and glows like a garnet. Your legs are tired in a deep, satisfying way. The muscles have worked and are now at rest. Your feet, freed from boots, feel light and slightly swollen. The small aches of the day's walk are already fading, replaced by a general heaviness that is not unpleasant. You think of the day, the cold morning in Roncesvalles, the beech forest with its copper leaves, Burguete's single street, the mud, the quiet villages, the woodpeckers drumming, the river growing louder, the bridge. You do not think about any of it very hard. The images drift through your mind like the leaves on the Arga's current. Outside, the light softens. The shadows lengthen. The sky above the valley turns from gold to a pale, luminous pink, then to the deep blue of early evening. The river continues its steady murmur, unchanged. Other pilgrims move quietly through the albergue. The sounds are domestic and soothing, the clink of dishes, the low murmur of conversation in several languages, the soft thud of a door closing. Everyone here has walked the same path today. There is a shared tiredness, a shared contentment. You eat something simple, bread, cheese, a bowl of soup. The soup is lentil, thick and warm, seasoned with paprika and a bay leaf. It fills you gently. You eat slowly, without urgency. There is nothing left to do today. The window is dark now. The sky has deepened to a blue-black, and the first stars are visible above the hills. The Arga is invisible in the darkness, but its voice continues, a soft, ceaseless rushing, like the sound of wind through distant trees. You lie down. The bunk is narrow, but the mattress is firm, and the pillow smells faintly of lavender detergent. You pull the blanket up. Your body sinks into the bed with a gratitude that is almost physical. The river is audible through the wall. Its voice is steady and without variation, a constant murmur that fills the room like a lullaby without words. It does not rise or fall. It simply continues, as it has continued for thousands of years, carrying water from the mountains to the sea. You think of the beech trees, the way the light fell through them in long golden shafts, the copper leaves turning and drifting down, the silence between the trunks, the soft crunch of beech nuts underfoot. You think of the mud, the way it held your boots for a moment with each step, then released them. The red-brown color of it, the color of iron, the color of the ancient limestone soil. Even the mud was unhurried. You think of Burguete's single street, the whitewashed houses, the red-brown shutters, Hemingway fishing in the river below 100 years ago, finding the same quiet that you found today. The albergue settles into silence. The conversations fade. The lights go out, one by one. Someone coughs softly. A sleeping bag rustles. Then quiet. The river continues. Its voice enters through the walls and the windows and the spaces under doors. It is the oldest sound in this valley, older than the bridge, older than the town, older than the name Zubiri itself. The water has been making this sound since long before anyone was here to listen. Your breathing slows. Your body is warm beneath the blanket. The tiredness in your legs is no longer an ache, but a heaviness, a pleasant weight that pins you gently to the bed. You think of the stone bridge at Burguete, its single arch over the Arro, the way the water braided around the stones beneath it, the leaves spinning slowly in the current. You think of the salamander on the path, glossy and still, its yellow spots bright against the dark earth, a small, quiet creature going about its life in the wet forest. The images come and go without effort. They do not demand attention. They drift, like the beech leaves falling through the canopy, turning slowly in the air, settling without sound. The Arga moves through the darkness outside. The water passes under the Puente de la Rabia, through the shadow of the arches, past the ancient pillar, and continues south. It has nowhere to be. It is simply going. Your eyes are closed. The room is dark. The blanket is warm. The pillow is soft beneath your head. Everything you need is here. The forest is still out there, in the darkness. The beech trees stand in their rows, their leaves rustling faintly in a breeze you cannot feel. The mushrooms grow in the dark, pushing up through the leaf litter, silent and pale. The wild boar are awake now, rooting through the undergrowth with their blunt snouts, turning the earth in search of food. They move quietly for their size. The forest absorbs their sound. The red squirrels are asleep in their drays, curled tight, their tails wrapped over their bodies like blankets. The woodpecker is silent, tucked into a cavity in a dead branch. The jays have settled. The forest is at rest. And you are at rest. The walking is done. The 22 kilometers are behind you, every step, every root, every stone, every patch of mud. Your body has carried you through the forest and down to the river, and now it asks only to lie still. The river murmurs. The sound is smooth and unbroken. It has no beginning and no end. It is simply there, like the sound of your own blood moving through your body, constant and quiet and alive. Tomorrow there will be another path, another set of villages, another valley. But that is tomorrow. Tonight there is only this: the warm bed, the dark room, the river's voice. The limestone beneath the town is 100 million years old. The river has been carving through it for longer than humans have existed. The bridge has stood for 7 or 8 centuries, and you have been here for an evening. You are the newest thing in this valley and the most temporary, and that is perfectly fine. Your thoughts slow. They lose their edges, their specificity. They become soft and formless, like the mist that hung between the buildings in Roncesvalles this morning. The river, the trees, the path, the stones, the leaves falling. The Arga flows south through the darkness. It passes under bridges and over stones and between banks of willow and alder, carrying the cold water of the mountains toward the plains. It does not pause, it does not sleep. It simply moves, and its movement is a kind of rest. Your breathing matches the river. Slow, even, continuous. The in-breath like the water rising over a stone, the out-breath like the water falling away. Rise, fall, rise, fall. The darkness is complete. The stars above the valley are bright and still. Somewhere in the forest, an owl calls once, a low, soft note that fades into the silence. You are warm. You are still. You are held by the valley and the river and the old stone of the bridge and the slow turning of the forest into autumn. The Arga murmurs. The leaves settle. The night deepens over Zubiri, over the bridge, over the sleeping forest, over you. The river holds you. The valley holds you. The long line of pilgrims who have crossed this bridge and slept beside this water stretches back through the centuries, and you are part of it now, another body at rest beside the Arga, another sleeper in the village of the bridge.